Hi, my name is Nicole Nageli, and today I have Elizabeth Ito with me.
Hi.
Do you want to say a little bit about yourself?
Hey, I'm Elizabeth Ito. I was born and raised in LA, and I worked on the show Adventure Time, and now I just came out with my own show called City of Ghosts.
All right, cool. Here's the icebreaker question. Tell us your favorite quote, but in your own words.
I feel like it's something about like how failure is important, but I don't know like an actual quote about it. I guess like to just go for it, like push yourself to fail, and maybe you won't. I don't know. It's kind of
I like that, or maybe you won't.
yeah.
So, I'm curious to know what role has fear played in your mindset towards art?
Um, I think fear's been like I don't know. I guess it's something that I feel like I experience a fair amount of like hesitation, but my inclination tends to be to not let it stop me from still trying to do it, even if I'm afraid.
That's really cool. Did that take you a while to learn, or was it something you just did from the beginning?
I think it definitely took me a while to learn to do that, but I feel like it was always sort of what I did. Like it's hard to explain, but maybe it's just more like um I tried to like it's not necessarily ignore it, but just like learn how it's like physically manifesting itself like in me. So like I mean because as we're talking about it, I'm thinking about how like I learned how to play piano when I was a kid.
Hmm.
And a good part of that is like learning how to perform like in front of people and to get up on stage. And like for in my case it was like you memorized like a piece and then you were in front of a bunch of people playing it without music in front of you. So I think like all the prep that goes into anything performative, like whether it's that or whether it's like what I do now, um, you sort of have to just train yourself to get past the anxiety that can freeze you up. And that part's like for me, it's just constantly learning because I've I had hoped that at a point that it just evaporates, like you've gotten so good at what you do that you don't experience that anymore. But it's not true. You still experience it, but you get better at learning how to like use it in a way.
I'm curious, dude, would you say that like your levels of fear have stayed the same? Or like how you said you can get over it, but is the level still the same?
I would say probably not. I mean, so like I guess that is like a relief, hopefully, to people who experience the same thing. Um, but like part of it also just might be like you learn to know that you're like that, like you learn that you're like that. You just basically figure out like it's not like as long as you can kind of like meet it, then it won't overtake you, I think.
Oh, that's really interesting. How does fear affect your work? How do you combat it?
Um, so I think I tend to combat it by I don't know, like I'm trying to think what how to describe it, but like I think it's like learning how to figure out what to train my focus on. Like if I can um I mean, the first place that I think like professionally I learned that like it shows up is like for storyboard artists, it's like when you have to pitch a sequence or when you have to pitch an episode that you've done. Because essentially you're standing in front of people, um, sort of like like showing them your drawings and showing them the way that you've planned out a story. And so it's like really similar to like times where I've been in like a class and I've had to ask a question or like present something to a class. Um, and I know that like my voice can get shaky when I get really nervous or like my hands get really clammy and my heart gets really like just it feels nervous. but I think it's like somebody had told me once, like, what if it wasn't a bad thing that this was happening to you? Like, what if you looked at it like more as like you're also feeling a certain amount of excitement, like it's not purely negative. And I was like, that's that's probably true. And I feel like sometimes that sort of helped me to focus and to get through it, like to kind of just like yeah, I don't know if it's really embracing it, but it is a little bit of like maybe this whole thing isn't like a negative experience. Maybe it's just like I'm amped up, so I can use a little bit of that adrenaline to like really focus on what I'm trying to say and try it to like drown out the idea that like I'm performing in front of people. It's more that like I'm here trying to communicate something to people. So that calms me down a little bit.
Yeah, it's really interesting. No, I feel the same way. I had to do that when I was first started public speaking and acting and stuff. It really like for me, it my throat literally like closes up and clenches like that. I had to learn the same thing that maybe it's how to transfer all that energy and nervousness into just pure excitement. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love I think I talked to you about this in the first message that I sent, but I really love the short that you did, the Welcome to Life short. One of the reasons I especially love it is because of the parents. It's a weird detail, but most stories that show like immigrant families or immigrant parents usually paint the parents in this negative light, like cast them as the weird or the strange characters. Maybe I'm just watching the wrong stuff, but your show is one of the only ones that I know that actually shows these parents as people that actually love their kid. I just really love that.
Thank you so much. That's so interesting. Like, I think you're the first person to mention that to me. But like, um, you're right that there isn't a lot of programming that shows that. Like, there's been a like only I don't know. The only thing I can think of that of like of a recent example was just like Master of None. I think his mom was really like a sweet character, but like it was kind of in a a very
Yeah.
personal way.
But yeah, seriously, that means a lot to me, especially like my parents are immigrants from India, so it was like, oh my gosh, nice parents, not like the strict Asian stereotype that keeps popping up. When you encounter a problem, usually what's your first thought?
It depends on what kind of problem it is, but I think my first thought is usually to like this sounds weird, but like figure out what it's about by like listening to whoever is involved in it, you know? Like, and then if it's something to do with like a problem somebody I mean, I guess it's still the same because I was about to say like if I do some work and a person has an issue that, with something that I've done in my work, um, it's usually just trying to get to the bottom of like what's the core of what they're thinking, what's the core of like what's the problem for them, and how do I should listen to what they're saying, but also try to figure out like, is that, how do I want to approach solving it? Um, and if it's something where it's something external to me, where it's like other people that have a problem with each other or a problem with somebody else, it's really just trying to get like the right picture of what's the actual issue that's happening here and how can I best help? Like sometimes it's like the best help is just to listen, but sometimes it's you have to take a beat to figure out what to do.
Yeah, that's really, really good advice. What were you scared of? What were you scared of at the start of your career, and has that changed?
um I think at the beginning of my career I was mostly probably scared of being unemployed, to be honest. Like you know Cal Arts is a pretty expensive school. So I
Yeah.
think like um even though I did have a lot of help from my parents and I had scholarships, um it's an amount of, like, money where, like, once you get out, you feel, really, really nervous about, like, how am I gonna pay back that? Like, because I still had money that I owed, so I think, there was that, there was kind of, like, a thought of, like, well, if I'm unemployed, I'm not gonna have healthcare, and I'm not gonna be able to do stuff that I enjoy doing, so it was just, like, trying to stay employed or trying to find what job, uh,
Mhm,
I would fit the best in. Um, yeah, I think, like, honestly, that, like, sort of, like, fear of having to, like, have a job to kind of, like, justify, like, what you did or what you do, it took a really long time for like, I mean, even still now, I think once in a while, like, I'll probably think, like, "Uh-oh, like, what if after this there's not like,
mhm.
like, I don't get this job?" It's like yeah, it's weird. It's like a very big driver, I think, for people who went to Cal Arts that, like, don't don't come from, like, billionaires.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's one of the reasons why I didn't go to art school. Um,
Smart.
what are you scared Thanks, hopefully it's a good idea. Um, what are you scared of now?
Uh, I'm trying to think, like, if I'm scared of it or, like, because there's a lot of stuff where I'm frustrated at it, but I'm not necessarily scared of it. I think one fear that I would have now is more about, like, I was really whether it's, like, performative or not, I was really excited with a lot of, like, the statements that some of the studios made following most of what was happening last year, and just, like, the ways that people made sort of, like in my mind, they made more of a commitment to kind of, like, do do more diverse programming, hire more diverse people, like, all the way up to the top,
Mhm.
um, and I think, like, my fear is that people are gonna, like, just sort of resign themselves to this complacency that existed before all that, and that just sort of tends to happen as a fixture of things, like, going back to normal, you know? So, my actual hope is that it doesn't really just reset back to, like, a normal. I think it's, like, my hope is just that people are true to what they said, like, especially the people that have the power to change it and to make those decisions, lasting and make them meaningful. I hope that's what they do.
Yeah, literally, same here, please. I remember being I think I was in middle school when Welcome to My Life came out. I was so like struck by the dialogue. Like it was the first show that I actually saw these characters talk like actual people with all the ums and the ahs and you know non-showy vocal inflections, and the kids acted like kids, not just tiny small goofy adults. It was just fantastic. As an actor, it was especially interesting. Even on stuff that is like real and grounded shows, there's still an element of performance. But your shows like City of Ghost and Welcome to My Life don't have that at all. You mentioned being inspired by like the carefreeness of amateur filmmaking, and the stuff you make really like shows that vulnerable and it's like real and authentic and it's just beautiful. I'm really curious cuz um I think your brother was the main character. Yeah, what was it like to direct your family?
Um, it was really interesting. Like, in some respects, it's like, when you involve, like, your family, whether it's, like, your siblings or, like, if you have your own kids or, for me, it's, like, with my husband and his family or any of that, I think you're always, like, you're kind of like walking that line of like you're combining your family life with your work. And sometimes it, like for me, I know I get nervous about that because there's a way that you're different and that your family is different to you than like a coworker or like even like a fellow artist collaborator. And like I don't know what everyone else's families are like, but mine is pretty like eclectic. And we with that comes like um emotional people, you know, who like but who are really funny, which is I think what comes across in the short. But like yeah, it does create sometimes difficult things. Like some of the funny versions of that are like when I first was making like the short that I made of this when I was like at Cal Arts. I remember when I went home to like talk to my mom and my brother and record them. When I first started recording my mom, she thought she was like a regular person and the rest of the family were all monsters. And I kind of realized it while I was recording her, and I had to be like, no, 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 it's you're also a monster. That would be so weird. Like, why would Doug be just the only one? And then we
Mhm.
had a good laugh about it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it was like a direct. It's just like a direct representation, like really literally, of like where all my work comes from. Like it always definitely comes from me, and it comes from my friends and myself and the experiences that I enjoy like talking about most of the time. Um, yeah, and like I just that's what I find the funniest and the best about people is like their personalities that like you could never get an actor to replicate. Like I could never
Yeah,
really
yeah.
truly get another actress to be you. Like if you know, so it's like you should just put the people who if it's possible, you should put the people that you picture when you write your stuff into that project, you know?
That is so like I cannot like it's so new and so like different. I've never seen it. It's just so like fascinating. Um how did you I have directed my brother for a couple of shorts that like we did together and it was interesting. How do you communicate um you know, some family members they might like overperform because they're like, "Oh, I'm acting how I felt like that." How do you communicate that like, "No, just actually like tone it down."
um I think, to be honest, I think it's like it's something that I actually feel like I had to do sometimes with people who weren't even like my family. Like, cause um, first with like anybody, like actors or non-actors, I feel like the minute that you start telling them that you're recording them or that you like, um, it's worse if you're filming them. It's better if you're doing it by voice, but there's still this aspect, even if with voice, because like you have equipment around them most of the time. Um, And so, like, I feel like there's always this initial period where people are uncomfortable and they're really nervous because they realize their performance is being recorded, or they like it's even like when people leave a like a voicemail message, like the amount of people that hate doing that, they hate then hearing it. Like some people won't listen to it after they've done it. Um, so I think like part of it is a lot like allowing some amount of time to get that person into a point where they're not like feeling nervous about it, where they're feeling a little bit more relaxed and able to be themselves.
Did you film
Um,
it? Sorry for interrupting. Did you film it
no.
in the recording studio or did you like we have like a home studio or like you know you put a blanket over your head and call it good?
um, some of it was in like an actual like recording booth because for Welcome to My Life they had like Cartoon Network has their own recording area so
Mhm.
that it's easier for them for shows and stuff. Um, there were some lines where like once we had to get it again, I kind of just had to call my brother up and be like, "Can you use mom's Zoom recorder to record yourself saying this one short line that we need. Um, and that worked fine, but I think like uh yeah, that I mean that kind of leads really well into like the second part, which is like have as many people handling um like kind of like the tech part of it if it's possible, even if it's just like another person sitting there with headphones, or if it's like you're sitting there with headphones and you get like one other person to help, communicate what you want. Because I was thinking like when I was doing more of it on my own, like when it was just sort of me at home recording my brother, or like me at home recording whoever I end up recording for some of the like experiments that I've done, like uh it's hard to be doing all of the things and also then directing your family member, because like inevitably like I would start getting irritated at like oh, my levels are messed up and like now I got to figure that out, but I also have to make sure that I like that answer you gave me, but I don't have like 5 hours to sit here doing this. So it was kind of just figuring out like how do I find the right people to like delegate some of these things too, so that I could be a little bit better like of a listener to what they're saying, and then like have a little bit more thought other than like overwhelming frustration coming out at them.
Yeah, that's really interesting. How did you communicate that tone to either the people you were directing or the people you were working with? Because I'm sure when, as I was saying, there are shows where they ask you to be like real and grounded, but they just mean like the Hollywood version of real and grounded.
um some of it for City of Ghosts was really just meeting the people at least once ahead of time, I think, like, and at that time like it was all in person, it would be making every effort to kind of like introduce myself to them in person, um so that like it gets a little bit of that nervous like sometimes people will overperform because yeah, it's just an expression of their nervousness. So I think like anything that I could do to like shorten that uncomfortable space so that it was comfortable. And then I think like having my documentary producer friend, Joanne Shen, like she was so good about uh, recognizing like kind of like those gems that people will say, where they'll 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 mention something and you kind of know it's like a gateway into this other neat story that they have to tell, or like she would remember something from having done a pre-interview with them so that she would know how to bring it up so they would talk about it. um, Occasionally it was making sure that we were recording like most of the time that they were there, so that sometimes even in the in between moments where they were trying to figure stuff out, uh, you can find, if you listen for it, you can find really good little character moments that like that represent them. Like
Yeah.
I always think about it, but like there was just this like really nice energy between JMD, the guy who played the drummer Ghost, and then uh, Eva and Tomiko, who played Sonia on the Lemert Park episode. And there was just this point where like Tomiko was trying to write out some like just on the spot rhymes to read, like that she was gonna like make up, like I mean she was literally like acting like I'm making up this poem as I'm going because this drumming ghost won't leave me alone. And she had scribbled stuff out on a notepad, and we were just still recording, and like JMD wasn't supposed to be like saying any lines, but he said to her like, "Oh, could I see what you got there? Like, I'm an expert at reading rapper chicken scratches." And I think we all laughed after that. And I like, it's like you save those in your mind. And I was like, later when my editor was putting together the animatic, I was like, can you find this part where he says this thing? Because like like, I don't know where, but, like, I want us to use that somewhere, like, even if it's not part of, like, the part where the kids are recording him, like, it sounds like such a really like, it's true that he is good at that, so I wanna figure out a way to, like, create a scene that embodies that, and so there's a tiny little scene where he says that to Eva, and yeah, I'm just happy to, like, do that.
That is so wonderful. I remember reading that in one of the interviews and being like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm really curious, are the episodes, do you like outline them roughly and then like an actual interview, you just ask them and then see what stories you can make out of it? Or is it like a full-on script?
Um, the first way that you said was pretty much how he did it. It was like an outline, but, like, it was heavily informed by, like, we kind of tried to map out, possible episodes that could happen in, whichever neighborhoods. It was like a kind of like a grid, because I think initially we thought maybe we would do 10 episodes, but then it just sort of like we figured out what the magic number would be to be able to afford to do the show basically. Um, and then so it was like, okay, out of this big group that we have, let's whittle it down to like the top six that we want to do. Um, and then it was like, okay, my documentary producer is gonna research a ton. She was always like, throwing new ideas at me for like the next one coming up, and we would write these out, or I would write these outlines, and then I would work with an animation writer, to kind of get them to be like what, people are used to getting as an outline and not some random scribbling of just my thoughts. But like again, it was like very like malleable. Like we'd sort of have to, I mean, just by the nature of like the way we were doing it, we had to be really, really flexible to um like I don't know, it's just I guess stuff that like isn't normally the issue. Like some of it was like if we can't get this one person to do the voice, is this still really the story that we would be able to do? Because like the interview with this other person, if we replace them, it's going to be a different kind of interview. So we would have to figure out how to adjust the story to accommodate like who we were or weren't able to get as voices.
Wow, that is like so interesting. The story and everything. I watched it all in one night and it just it flows so beautifully and organically. Like I feel like I'm watching I mean I'm gonna mention it in the next question, but it's like it radiates this comfort, but it's like so deep and real and just wonderful. It's just really great.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Um, the next question I have. Yeah, so it does radiate that comfort and it feels like I think I said this, like a warm hug, but as well as that, it's also like incredibly real and discusses like super important topics like you talked about, yeah, making a chart with all the neighborhoods and stuff, and about talking about gentrification and skate culture and the Tongva and all of these like huge things. What you made is so much bigger than the actual show itself, and I just it's so cool. I'd love to know like your feelings and your perspective on making something like that.
Oh, I don't know. I'm like, it's just it feels incredible to be the person that and like started it, but there is this like I don't know, it's like a bizarre feeling. Like I feel I guess like the similar feeling to like during Adventure Time. I remember thinking when I was directing rather than boarding, um, like there was a point where I mean it's on a lot of things about me, but I won an Emmy, but it felt weird because it's like I didn't win this Emmy. Like this entire team of people like through these years built this show up, and I happened to work on this like one episode that we kind of like it felt like a relay race a little bit with me and the other director, because sometimes we would have to switch like episodes just because of schedule. And so I think like even when we won it, I was like, is that me? Did I do that? But like
Yeah.
it's such a group effort that it didn't feel like I can say like um I'm an Emmy award winner. It felt like this show is an Emmy award winning show, Adventure Time is, and like I just happened to be lucky enough to like direct this particular episode, and to work on it. And it's a similar feeling with my show right now. It's like I created it, but like through everybody who worked on it being incredible at what they were doing, and then just like sort of because of my openness, I feel like a lot of these stories became what they are, but like the depth that they reached wasn't because of me alone. So it's like just wanting to make sure uh publicly that I never, or even just to myself, like I never want to sound like it was, oh, it was all it was all me. I want people to know that like how important that is, that like these things are created by a group of people that really cared, and that continue to care. Uh, and yeah, that like
Yeah.
I just feel fortunate enough that I got them all together on the same thing, um, and that they can feel happiness from it. Like that part makes me really happy that they appreciated working on it. That like I was a pleasant person to work for.
Yeah, definitely. I was talking to someone else not that long ago who said the same thing and was like, their perspective was that if we show people how animation works, then it won't be all about like the actors or the celebrities or just the directors and stuff. That is really like, it's really, really wonderful.
Thanks.
What does the story mean to you? There's this quote that I really, really love by Elizabeth Gilbert. She says, I am who I am because of what I have made and what it has made me into. So, what part of you did City of Ghosts or Welcome to My Life or any project that you've done help create or strengthen?
Um, I think the part that it's strengthened for me making the show, and in the work that I am constantly trying to um, be able to do. It's like while doing art is something that like fulfills me, like where it's like from the youngest age you kind of go like I want to be an artist. Um, like I think the strongest things have been connecting, the ability to like connect to people, and then so like your art is kind of always like something that like a gift that you're giving to people. Like I recently was talking to Akko, one of the directors from my show, but then also who I worked on Adventure Time with. Um, and like I was just relating to her this memory, like one of my earliest memories of giving my dad's friend this like I had I had sculpted this like cat out of some kind of like clay that my parents had, like this brown clay that came in a bag, and I just like shaped it into this cat that had a little dish on it. And I remember he told me he liked it, and I had this feeling of, I think I just said, I blurted out like, "Do you want it? Like, do you want to take it?" And he kind of was like, "Oh no, are you sure? Like this is, you made this." And I was like, "No, you can have it." But like honestly, in my gut as a kid, I don't think I wanted to give it to him. Like I was kind of like, what, like there was a voice in there that was like, "Why are you doing that? Like you made that, um it's your art, you should keep it." But I didn't, I was like, "Nah, like it's not about that." And then like kind of it's that feeling. It's like that feeling of like um I made something, and it made all of these people feel happy or like feel like uh, a good feeling. And I think it was like that's what I'm continually trying to do with things that I do. It's like why I like making people laugh, um, mostly with the kinds of work that I do. Uh, Except a lot of people have been crying at City of Ghosts, so like it's you know, the crying can be good too. So it's
It's the
like
good kind of crying, I
yeah.
promise. This oh my gosh, I forgot to write this question. So, oh, I'm so glad I remembered this. So, Lin Manuel Miranda once left a review on Johnny Sun's book, and it said something like, "This is the kind of book that holds you close, sweeps you in, gives you a little kiss, and then knocks you down to the floor crying, and then picks you up and hugs you again." And that's like exactly how I felt watching the show because it was so like, psh, psh, but like comforting. Like I feel like my mom's telling me a story. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really love what you said about making gifts and creating. I totally felt the same way. Pretty much to this day, I made this comic, and it's like the best thing I'm proud of. My family member died 2 years ago now, but we didn't speak the same language. But I grew up with her, so she taught me love by showing me love. So her love, like literally, like transcended language. Even though like I never knew like her favorite color or her favorite song or anything. And that comic started, I kept it to myself, like how you said, but eventually, once I decided to make it as a gift to her legacy, to her life, that's when like it's like unlocks something, you know? It's really beautiful. I
Yeah,
love that.
that's amazing.
Thank you. Okay, gotta breathe a little bit now. This is a little bit emotional. When is the last time that you created without fear, and how did that affect your work?
I mean, the thing that like I mean, City of Ghosts is pretty much that. Like, I think I can't say that I did it like with no fear because I mean, I think like at the beginning of any any project that I've ever done that like mattered to me, I feel like there's always a fear like of it's a combo of things because like when you make work that's like vulnerable, you feel like a nervousness because you know when any kind of criticism to that is difficult to handle when stuff is personal. Um, I think like that was one of the reasons why like coming to Netflix right at the very beginning when like nobody was there and it was empty. There were aspects to that that were really scary in the same way as like yeah, going to like the summer school for the first time with, you know, nobody you know and nobody like has told you how to do that thing. Um like when I was making Welcome to My Life, the short for Cartoon Network, like I felt uh I don't know, I think it was like this sense of like I know I want to do it this way. Um I know that people are giving me a little bit of a hard time about wanting to do it this way, but like I should just try it. But like there was also this like nervousness of like I've never really led my own projects like in this way before. Am I able to do it? Like, because uh, there's been plenty of people that I've worked for where I was like, I don't think I want to do it that way, but that seems like it works. So what if I do it a different way and then it just doesn't work because I'm not like assertive or I'm not, you know, I don't know exactly what I want or I don't know as much as this person. So it was a lot of like self doubt but, like, getting to Netflix and having this wide open pasture of, like, you like, this new frontier of, like, we're gonna do it different, um, I felt like I would be disappointed later if I felt like I had just done something that was, like, safer. like where it's like somebody told you you could do it however you wanted, but you still ended up making like 13 11-minute episodes or what you know, whatever typical number is, and you still made it about this type of character that we've seen so many shows about, and you know, you tried to make it diverse. Like what if you had taken none of those risks, like at the end of it, like, or what if I had not done that, how would I feel? And I was just like, well, I gotta go for it, because like, you know, if I like, I guess that's where the failure thing comes in, because if I don't know that I tried for like the craziest thing, um like, how will I ever know that I couldn't have done it? You know, like,
Yeah.
I need to know that I can do it, and I know that I can do it, and I'm being given the opportunity to show that I can do it. So until somebody takes that away, like, until somebody says, "This is the wrong idea, and we're not gonna pay for it," um, I'm just gonna continue to push back on them telling me, you know, not to do that, or not to do it this way, or to try it a different way. Like, I'm trying it the way that I think is gonna work. We'll see. If I'm wrong, you can fire me. You know what I mean?
But at least you tried. I think you were
Yeah.
just saying that in the beginning of the interview. I love that. Um, think of a question. 1 second. How did you? How are you able to find that balance between being assertive and like fighting for your ideas, and then being like, wait a minute, what if I'm actually wrong here? What if whatever this person is saying, what if that's actually better? How do you know when to trust yourself like that?
Oh, that's really tough.
Yeah. That's one of the things like that I actually had to unlearn from that summer camp. I got so scared about how like the process works and everything that anything I didn't do that followed that process, I just shut it down. And that's one of the things that I had to unlearn like now. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, that's really tough. And I think I've thought about that before. I think what's tough is just that, like, um most situations, like, if I think about, I'm gonna take Cartoon Network as an example, because I wasn't necessarily like, it wasn't like somebody said, "We're open to you making a short that it wasn't made the same way that we made all of our other shorts." It was more just like, "I have this idea, but I think it's really important that we, um, do specific things in making it that are not how you normally do it." And, like, one of them was, you know, like, uh, using my brother's voice and my family's voice, and using, like, recordings that, like, maybe weren't done in a booth, or just a lot of it, like, some of it was just, like, with the animatic, I honestly just, like, normally you're supposed to show people, like, a storyboard, you know, as, like, your first pitch, but I think I came in with, like, an animatic, because I just edited it, and I went and I actually did, like, ask my family questions, and I got a lot of the records that way, and, like, and so it was already in there when they saw it, because, like, like, ahead of the pitch, I had already thought, um, "If I don't show this to them this way, like, if I pitch it the normal way, um, they're not gonna understand it the way that like, they're not gonna get the impact of, like, why it needs to not be like actors."
Did
Um,
anyone ever like say, I don't know, like you don't have to answer this, like why are you hiring your family? And we have like so and so or somebody, or like were they like how do we know you're going to direct them properly if they're your family members or something like that?
Something similar. It was like more like, it wasn't ever like specifically because they were my family, but it was a little bit like, well, they're not in SAG. They're supposed to be in SAG. We can only do that if there's like an exceptional reason. we think that like you're trying to basically prove that this, I mean, essentially what those shorts were at the time, and I don't know if they even have that program anymore, but it was something like a training ground for could this work as a series. And then so I think there was this assumption that it's like because they're not actors or actresses, they won't be able to handle doing, the amount of voice work that like if this turned into a series with like 50 episodes, they wouldn't be able to do that. Um, like which always leads which 100% of the time led me to the question of like, do I want to make 50 episodes of this show though? Like I don't know. Like I like that's like a whole other thing because so many things are sold on that premise that like it it's it seems more valuable to people if somebody's optioned something for a ton of stuff when like in reality like I don't even know if I want to ever do that. Like I'm not sure if I ever want to make like a, I mean, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but like Ben 10 or like, Powerpuff Girls, those are good shows. It's just different than the type of thing that I make. So it was kind of having to push on that too and say like, don't you guys ever see like the opportunities in doing things that aren't, just like a long running product? Um,
Do you think if they said no for whatever reason, you would have like gone and done it on your own in some way?
Sometimes, yeah, I thought of that. With like Welcome to My Life as a show in general, like I thought of so many different ways that that could um, continue, even like today, and I still would somewhat want to do that. It's just like the difficulty of like the making a show of that level. I think like the Cartoon Network one would be pretty expensive. So they're probably right in that regard. But I don't think it's like, like I think after after I had made it, I watched like Ready Player One and I got really mad because I was like, just you just start calculating how much it must have cost to make to make like 10 seconds of that movie. And I was like, oh, but like where's that money for like projects like mine? I'm sorry, I think I derailed your question by the way.
No,
Like I
no, no, it's totally fine. I love hearing about stuff like this. That's why I was actually really excited, especially with all the stuff Netflix is doing. I've been writing a lot on it. Just I'm very excited for like the just the volume over quality. Not quality, obviously, but you know what I mean, like
yeah.
hiring all these like really cool people to just like, here, money, go, do whatever you want. I just
Yeah.
think that's awesome. Is there I don't know how much time you have like apart from the show or whatever. Is there a project or something that you're putting off right now because of fear?
I mean, to be honest, there's nothing like that I've been putting off because of fear. I feel like, and maybe they're not gonna want to hire me after I say this, but I feel like it's all the studios that it's are the ones that have a fear of anything right now, that I have a lot of ideas for um relatively ambitious projects, but like to me they're not like they're valuable. Like it's just thinking like there's a depth to them and there's like a level to them of stuff that I want to do that is similar to City of Ghosts, and especially in the sense that like nobody's really making that kind of show because it didn't exist before. Um, but the nervousness for me is just like how much it has to fit into other people's idea of what people actually want to see or what they want to pay for or what will make them money as a studio. So you get a lot of people that glom on to like um, I mean, from my perspective, it seems like there's a lot of people that are really interested in adapting graphic novels of things lately, which
Mhm.
is interesting. But to me, it's like that's a whole other um, type of project. So it's just hopeful that like having a project like this one will somehow open the gate a little bit for I don't know, like more innovative things like this, so that like studios will be less fearful to like take a chance on that kind of stuff.
What's something that you failed at and what happened afterwards?
What have I failed at? There was one, like, I was gonna say a piano competition, but I don't even really think that's like a failure because it's a competition. So like by its nature, somebody has to fail, you know, like somebody lost. Um, oh, you know what? I tried to make Welcome to My Life a TV show right when I got out of Cal Arts almost. Like
Oh, wow.
I had done a training program at DreamWorks. Oh, I failed at that too. Like,
You're like, it's all coming back.
no, yeah. Because honestly, like I failed at that for I have no idea why. Like it was really just like
Like, you didn't get the internship, or you got it and then, like, I don't know, you
well
spontaneously
like
combusted?
kind of like I was in their training program and then they you know like part of it was like the training program is this long and then at this point you'll find out if we're going to give you a full contract and you'll get put onto a show and you'll work on and then you'll continue working at DreamWorks. And it was really just up to like me and this one other guy at the end where they said they didn't think we were working out, but like and they said something to the effect of like it had to do with like my drawing not being up to par, which was like
Oh,
a like that was like a punch in the gut, I think, when I was like if you just think about, you know, where you're at when you first get out of school and then you think you've learned all this stuff and at the end of it they're like you don't know how to draw. It was like, okay. um, in retrospect, like it was because I was getting other opportunities, and I think whoever was the recruiter at the time did, or not recruiter, but whoever was in charge of the training program kind of wanted it to make it seem like it was about my failure rather than about what it was really about. Which I think it was just a power play situation. Like, oh, you're not like loyal to DreamWorks. Well, you can't draw, kind of thing, you know.
oh, geez, that
Um,
sucks.
yeah, but like when you're young, you don't. I wish like I had the foresight to know like that sometimes it's not really about what somebody's telling you it's about. It's about more of like a power trip. Um, but also after that, like I went to Disney TV to try to do like a primetime animated version of Welcome to My Life. And it didn't work for obvious reasons. Like Disney was just not really an open place for like, you know, if I wanted to do something unscripted with my family for animation like in 2005, um just like, you know, like try to imagine like a Disney animated TV show like that on prime time and it's not imaginable because it's just not what they do. So it didn't work out and I know like when they came to tell me they were shelving it basically, I was like crushed. I just felt like, you know, like oh, I did everything wrong, you know. I should have done this if I had done all of these things, if I hadn't, you know, pushed back on this one thing, I would have uh had a show. And yeah, I think like now when I look at it, I'm really happy that it didn't work out because there's a lot of things I wouldn't have been able to do. It just would have been kind of like a not great version of what it could have been. And yeah, but like I felt for a long time like, oh, like I failed at the training program, I failed at making my own show. Like I don't know what to do. Like I don't know what I'm doing wrong. But I think it just took some time and like experience.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. We have 3 questions left. I
Okay.
love that you share the behind the scenes of like making your show. I remember looking at the animatic and like the storyboards and how you were talking about like how rough they are and how they never get more cleaned up than this. I really like that by showing like the behind the scenes process, you're helping people. What motivates you to I don't know, just show, because you don't have to show the behind the scenes, but you do. So I'm interested. Is that like a choice that you made, or what motivates you to do that?
Yeah, I've started doing sharing like my roughs and all of that because I want other people who are like me to know that you don't have to be like an incredible drafts person in order to do this. You just sort of have to have a drive, an idea of what your timing is, like an idea of exactly what you need to communicate in order to get your message across. I feel like I'm bombarded on a regular basis with people who are like not all the time lately because I'm usually distracted by other things. But before I felt like you get a lot of people that share this like these crazy paintings that they do or these like really sick decks that they make for show ideas. And I sometimes I see that and I think like I hope people are know that like it doesn't have to look like that. Like it's not all about like the glamour of it. It's not all about like the show of it. Like sometimes it's really about to me like the opposite. Like it's about like being able to see like the core of where something is at.
That is lovely. I really, really love that you're doing that. What's the most fearless thing you've ever done? This doesn't have to be art related.
Fearless.
Yeah, what's the most fearless thing you've ever done?
I don't know, like, I think about this time where, like, we were this isn't even the most fearless, though. Um, it's just the first thing that came to mind, but, like, there was this time when we were waiting in this crazy traffic, and I saw, like, to get over to this parking lot, we could just go through this one place where, like, it would technically be going the wrong way, but I remember my husband thinking it was, like, the most, like, badass Rambo thing for that I could have done, but I just kinda, like, drove over to it and went that way so that we could get out of this line, but that's
There was
sort
a
of like
huge ramp and you flew off over the
yeah,
freeway.
yeah. It was near, like, the Long Beach Aquarium, I think, and I was just like, "O okay, I'm gonna go for it." Like, I don't see anybody around, so
That is very interesting. What is something that you thought was scary, but you were able to overcome or get through?
Um, I've always found performing and speaking in front of people to be scary. And somehow I ended up doing it for a job. So, like,
10 out of
uh
10 planning.
yeah, so I don't know. I think, it's more just, like, realizing that, like, there's something that fulfills me about it, and, like, while I might be, like, introverted and shy, that it doesn't mean that you're only that. Sometimes people can be introverted and they have another side of themselves that is not introverted, that's sort of, like, more extroverted and likes performing and likes attention. Um, and I think it was just recognizing that and, like, realizing that's also okay that you like that, and, you might embarrass yourself, but, like, that's the risk you take, and that, like, the rewards of it are greater than, just sitting there afraid to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I love that so much. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time.
Yeah,
Do you
thank
want to give
you.
your contact info or places people can find you? I'm pretty sure everybody knows where to find your shows, so.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you guys definitely know where to find my show. You can find me on Twitter, at Kikutown. It's KIKUTOWNE, and then, on Instagram at OtterSnaps.
Awesome. Do you have any last thoughts that you want to share?
No, I'm really happy, to have met you, and thank you
Uh,
so much for calling me and stuff.
yeah, no problem. This has been so much fun. We're going to say bye to the camera. Goodbye,
Alright,
audience. Goodbye.
bye.
Bye.